Welcome back to BBW News. I'm your host Gary Stevens, and today as our guest we welcome Elizabeth Childs, a representative from the American Library Association, to talk about one of the many banned books, Bridge to Terabithia by Katherine Patterson, for Banned Book Week. So please welcome Mrs. Elizabeth Childs.
Hello, good evening Mr. Stevens.
For those of you who have not read it, Bridge to Terabithia is a novel written by Katherine Patterson that takes place in rural Virginia. It's about a boy named Jesse who dreams of being the fastest kid in the 5th grade, until he gets beat by the new girl, Leslie. Wow. Well, anyway, the two become inseparable and they build a secret and imaginary kingdom in the forest. They called it Terabithia. You have to get to Terabithia by swinging on a rope attached to a crabapple tree. Jesse and Leslie went to Terabithia to escape from everyday life. One day when Jesse is gone, Leslie tries to go to Terabithia by herself, and while she swings to the other side of the creek, the rope breaks and Leslie dies, smashing her head in the creek. Ouch. So this book landed as number 9 on the 100 most frequently challenged books list of 1990 and 2000 because of death, language, and religious views. That's a huge list, Mrs. Childs. Can you tell us why this book landed on the banned book list?
Well, for starters, this book uses offensive language, and that's not suitable for children.
I read this book a few days ago, Mrs. Childs, and the profane language in this book is very mild and infrequent, so I don't see why that should pose as a threat.
Well, these characters also disrespect their instructors and their parents. The little girl calls her parents by their first names, and her and the boy poke fun at the instructor constantly.
The characters learn and grow from making fun of their
instructor.
Okay. Of their instructor. The main character grows to find respect and understanding after the passing of his friend.
The passing of the little girl is also very controversial.
But Mrs. Childs, the death of little Leslie shows Jesse how to move past death. It brings a great deal of growth in him.
But she still dies.
Death of a loved one is something everyone faces.
Well, this novel promotes witchcraft, violence and satanism.
And how is that, Mrs. Childs?
The satanism is caused by the author's constant use of the word Lord without prayer.
Patterson just wanted to make the book as natural as possible by having a 10-year-old boy use common words from the time period in rural Virginia. And can you explain the witchcraft?
Whatever, Mr. Stevens. The witchcraft and violence comes from their kingdom being sacred and from their imaginary battles with the land's common foes. No child should have such an elaborate fantasy world, for it may lead to confusion.
Confusion? What kind of confusion? Confusion as to whether or not they are kids? So it seems like Mrs. Childs has nothing to say. Well, I like this book because everyone in real life eventually faces death, and this novel teaches children to be aware of what's in the real world, but that it's still okay to have the imagination to escape from the horrors of every day. Bridge to Terabithia is unbanned in our books. Mrs. Childs loses.
I don't need to take this from an incompetent lowlife like you, Mr. Gary Stevens.
Me? I'm incompetent for my job? You represent the American Library Association, but you're British. And BTW at Stevens. Well, that's it for today, folks. Tune in tomorrow at 8 a.m. for an all-new episode of BBW News.